I'm very, very disappointed on what I've just come across as I'm doing my own little research. Today I decided to check really who owns the land of this country called South Africa. How much land belongs to the state? Well, my next mission will be to check where did the state get the land? Who owned the land before even the state got a portion of it? Let's go to the numbers. I found that the state, South Africa, only owns 14% of the land. So 86% of the land is privately owned. Okay, even there, I went a little bit further and I discovered that 31% of the 86% that is privately owned, it is owned by trusts.
Africa's youth are angry because yes, the faces are new, but the tricks, the agenda is still the same, old agenda. And tonight that changes the global equation. So Africa youths are angry, and this is the reason why, because many young Africans actually feel trapped in contradiction. We live on the richest continent in resources, yet millions remain.
Zimbabwe said it will return 67 commercial farms that were seized during the country's controversial land reform program under the former President Robert Mugabe. The government said the farms belong to foreign nationals from Denmark, Switzerland, Germany, and Netherlands and were protected under bilateral investment agreements. The move is part of a wider effort by Harare to rebuild relationship with Western countries and international lenders after years of isolation. The land seizure, which began in the early 2000s, were presented as an attempt to address colonial-era land inequalities, but they also...
Hello, my people. Today we are talking about the South Africa / Zimbabwe land dilemma. You know what I mean? This is these two countries are dangerous example of what we don't want Africa to be. You know what I mean? In terms of in terms of having what belongs to you. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to land. You can see that in South Africa, 80% of their land belongs to non-indigenous South Africans. You can call them non-indigenous South Africans. And when you come to Zimbabwe, 70% of their land in 2000, in year 2000, belonged to the non-indigenous as well. I don't want to use other name to describe this non-indigenous. I want to stick to this name. I have a reason why I'm using non-indigenous, to describe these people. You know what I mean? And Zimbabwe in 2000, as I said, their land belonged to this non-indigenous Zimbabweans. Mugabe tried to get the land back by, I think by his own authority as the president. He took this land back, and now they are giving it back to these people that Mugabe took it back from them. So this is kind of a dilemma for these two countries, because we can see in South Africa that those that claim to own it, what they are doing, like they're expelling other Africans in South Africa to leave their place. But and other Africans that are in South Africa, they don't understand their condition, because sometimes you can start blaming everyone because you don't understand what is happening with these people that you are dealing with. You know what I mean? You are dealing with people that they're not in control of their land. Their land doesn't belong to them, but they think this is their country, because this is what their politicians want them to believe. Because if you don't have at least 60% of your land You don't belong, and you claim that this is, you're being like, oh, this is my place. It's not your place because your land is major stuff. That's the basic, for you to say that you're from, so you have to be able to have land, and as other Africans, But the thing is that this is a delicate issue. It's not something that somebody like Mugabe tried to get it in those means, but you know how they sanctioned Mugabe. The West despise Mugabe, and they see how how well it went for Mugabe. It didn't go well for him because now the whole country was he ran the whole country into a dead end. But it's not actually his fault entirely, but it's because the forces he was fighting. When you are fighting, you have to know the nature of the beast you are fighting. You know what I mean? Because you are fighting a bigger beast. And and the thing is that the people we are dealing with, he cannot say that they have like these people are people that he say they have mutual respect for doing stuff right, making sure that if you are taking somebody, if you are somebody's territory, we don't want to look at what brought you in their territory. You shouldn't be so greedy, like you're taking somebody's land and you're taking 70% of it, and you feel like these people at a point they're not gonna snap. You know what I mean? The same thing in South Africa, and now because those people that have this land in South Africa, it's gonna be very difficult for those that claim to be South Africans. They are the original South Africans to get this land back. Why? Because now you see what is happening. Because these people they have resources already. They have bigger resources because the land belongs to them and they control the economy. So the only thing they're going to be doing is that they buy your politicians off so that they don't talk about land reforms, stuff like that. Even if they're going to talk about land reforms, they will make sure that it's going to be something that they're not going to lose. These people, they don't want to lose an inch. That's the problem. They don't want to lose an inch. They want to get everything as they have it before. That's why it's a dilemma for this government of these two countries to handle. How are you going to handle this if you know that, especially the type of politician we have in Africa is that easy to buy them off, and with money, these people can always get what they want, as we see in Zimbabwe. Now the Zimbabwe government is trying to return this land for them. And I have some people in my comment section. I made a video about Zimbabwe, how they want to return their land, the land that those non-indigenous have to them again. And I see these non-indigenous coming to my comment section to say something that is unpleasant, about what's happening in Zimbabwe. Some of them even said that the Zimbabweans should eat rap, because they drove them away. They drove them away. Yeah. They have, there's a reason why Mugabe reacted the way he reacted to drove some of them away, because when you are too greedy, you know what I mean? You become greedy, you took everything, you took 70%, you shouldn't be doing that. It's too greedy. If somebody come to Europe and took 70%, there will be war. You know what I mean? Europe's go to war with even a tiny something island. And talk more of coming to somebody's country, and you are taking 70% of the land or 80% of the land, and it's a big dilemma now, because how are you going to handle it now? Because now these people, they still, even when you look abroad, when you look outside Africa, there are people who are still interested in how you deal with their people. So anything you do to them, they're gonna sanction you because they control, all this World Bank stuff like that they used to control Africans. They give you money and they tell you what to do. That's the thing. But I think before, if you're gonna do something about it, you need to take a bold action. I'm not saying that these two African countries should just, go hard on taking this stuff. There's a way. You have a democratic government. You can get, not like you're gonna take this land completely from them, but you have to do something. If you don't do something, it's not good. You have to do something to make sure that even anyone even go back to when they get this land. How do they get it? That's the major thing. You have to get it. If they don't get it through rightful means, through lawful means, you have now you have something to to latch out and start something, to take some of this land back, and give to the people that the land belong. I'm not saying you should take all of them, because as I see, some Africans, they see in these two countries, Zimbabwe and that, so they still want this non-indigenous to be around, because they have means of, I don't know, means of, they have capacity to farm and, produce food. I think some of them say want them to be around, so that, but for them to be around and take all your stuff, it's not good. You have to be a balance. You know what I mean? You have to give them, even if it's just 40% of the land. They should just take 40% and leave 60%. But when you take 80 and leave just a tiny stuff, these people are just existing. And the thing is that the land they took is the one that is more fertile. It's not like they just go and take a desert or some unproductive land. They take the one that they know is the best, and this is what they do everywhere they go. You know what I mean? Thank you for watching. Peace.